The hybrid meeting for the County of Brant Committee of Adjustment on January 18th, 2024 is now to a start. I'll ask staff to start the recording. Good evening, members of the committee, applicants, agents, staff, and members of the public. As this meeting is also being held virtually, I'll remind you that the meeting is being recorded and streamed live via the County of Brant YouTube account. Committee of Adjustment members joining online should use their cameras throughout the meeting so that the applicants, agents, and members of the public can identify the voting members, and we can confirm you are present throughout the meeting. Planning staff will be requested to join the meeting during presentations and will be available to answer questions. Applicants, agents, owners, and delegations are also participating virtually. All persons wishing to speak to the items on the agenda were required to register prior to the meeting. Any comments, questions, or concerns received in written format have been provided to the members of the committee and will form part of the meeting record. Applicants, agents, and members of the public, please ensure your camera is off and your microphone is on mute throughout the meeting and your name is correct on the Zoom screen. When called upon to speak, please remember to unmute your microphone and turn on your camera before speaking. I don't believe there are any public delegations tonight, but if there were, they're allowed 10 minutes to speak. If there is a connection or service interruption, which shouldn't affect our quorum of the committee tonight because there's only one member online. If you are present in council chambers this evening and wish to speak, please come to the podium and speak into the microphone after giving your name. The meeting is held in accordance with provision of the Planning Act. The purpose of this meeting is to discuss minor variance and consent applications and give anyone in attendance the opportunity to ask questions, provide comments related to an application. Notice of this meeting was provided by mail and signed posted by staff as required by the Planning Act. A copy of the meeting agenda, including the staff report, related materials, and comments received are available on the County of Brant website. Once the presentations, public hearing, and question period are complete for each item, if the committee deems it appropriate, they will make a decision. Each committee decision is final following the 20-day appeal period. If you are in chambers tonight, please note the sign-in sheet at the entrance. And if you wish to be notified of any decision from this evening, kindly note your name and address on that sign-in sheet. If you do not request a copy on that sheet, you will not be notified. The names of those individuals who speak on any item tonight will appear within the meeting minutes. Anyone wishing to receive further notice or a copy of the committee's decision, please contact the County of Brant Planning Department. The order of delegation are as follows: the planning staff report and recommendation, the applicant agent presentation, questions and discussions, public comments, further questions of clarification, and then the decision by voting by the committee members. I'll now take attendance. Please indicate by stating present if you are in attendance. Mary Jane Brown, present. Harry Emmett.
Present.
Bob Hamilton.
Present.
Jane Panag.
Present.
Rebecca Smith.
Present.
Thank you. Steve Schmidt.
Present.
John Vamus.
Present.
We'll now move to item 2 on our agenda, approval of the agenda. Do any members have items to be added to the agenda? May I request a mover and a seconder? Member Emmett? Member Schmidt, can I please have your motion?
Moved by myself, seconded by Member Schmidt, that the agenda for the County of Brant Committee of Adjustment meeting of January 18, 2024 be approved.
Members, please indicate if you are in favor of this motion, starting with Member Emmett.
Yes.
Member Penag,
Yes.
Member Vamus,
Yes.
Member Smith,
Yes.
Member Hamilton,
Yes.
and Member Schmidt,
Yes.
and Brown, yes. The motion has carried. The agenda for tonight has been approved. Item 3, are there any members who would like to declare a conflict of interest for any items on the agenda this evening? Member Emmett will ask that you stand down when the application is heard. And item 4, adoption of minutes from the previous meeting, December 21st, 2023. Do any community members have any errors or omissions to note on those minutes? Nope. Can I please have a mover and seconder for this motion? Member Hamilton, Member Penag. Can I please have your motion?
Moved by myself, seconded by Member Penang, that the minutes from the County of Brant Committee of Adjustment meeting held on December 21st, 2023 be approved.
Thank you. Members, please indicate if you are in favor of this motion, starting with Member Emmett.
Yes.
Member Schmidt,
Yes.
Member Hamilton,
Yes.
Member Penag,
Yes.
Member Vamus,
Yes.
Member Smith,
Yes.
and Member Brown, yes. The motion to adopt the minutes of December 21st, 2023 has carried, and they are approved. I will now introduce items 5.1 for application B3123HH and turn it over to staff for the presentation of the report and the recommendation. Please go ahead, Haley, whenever you're ready.
Good evening. This is a lot line adjustment application for lands located at 719 Watts Pond Road within the former geographic township of South Dumfries. The subject lands are located northeast of the town of Paris, west of the Grand River, on the north side of Watts Pond Road. The subject lands currently contain an existing single detached dwelling, 3 farm buildings, and 2 silos located on the western portion of the site. The subject lands are designated agriculture within the County of Brant official plan and currently zoned agriculture within the County of Brant zoning bylaw 6116. In November 2023, application B31-23-HH was brought forward to the Committee of Adjustment as a surplus farm dwelling severance application. Staff recommended refusal as the application did not meet the intent of a surplus farm dwelling severance policy as outlined in the report. At the November 16th Committee of Adjustment meeting, the agent provided new information resulting in a vote to defer the application for staff to have time to review the new information. The application has since been amended to reflect a lot line adjustment application. The application before Committee of Adjustment tonight proposes a lot line adjustment with approximately 39 hectares being severed from 719 Watts Pond Road and consolidated with 684 Paris Plains Church Road. The planning justification report submitted and prepared by the agent states that the purpose of the lot line adjustment is to increase the size of the lands to the east in preparation of future applications for resource extraction. The planning analysis concludes that the application does not meet the intent of the boundary adjustment policies, as the lot line adjustment is not legal or technical in nature. It is not recognized as a minor boundary adjustment and will result in the creation of a significantly undersized agricultural parcel. Planning staff note that the adjustment will render the retained lands unviable for agricultural practices in the long term given the size of the parcel. According to the provincial policy statement, legal or technical reasons for adjustments include easements, corrections of deeds, quit claims, and minor boundary adjustments that don't result in the creation of a new lot. The justification provided does not demonstrate the minor nature of the proposal and the continued viability of both parcels for farming. Although staff acknowledge no additional lot creation or building opportunity, it is important to highlight that the result of this proposal is a significantly undersized parcel with a remnant dwelling, transforming it into a residential lot where one did not previously exist. This creates further fragmentation within the prime agricultural designation. In conclusion, this application has been assessed based on its own individual merits, practice, and policies in place at the time of deeming the application complete. Staff have concluded that the application does not meet the intent of the boundary adjustment policies because the lot line is not minor and no legal or technical reasons have been provided, that the boundary adjustment is not recognized as a minor boundary adjustment. The application will result in a creation of a significantly undersized agricultural parcel. The application is not consistent with the policies of the provincial policy statement and not in conformity with the growth plan of the Greater Golden Horseshoe. The application is not in conformity with the general intent of the policies of the County of Brant official plan and zoning bylaw. It is my professional opinion that the merits of this application represent poor planning and therefore recommend that the consent application B31-23-HH be refused for the reasons outlined within my report. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Haley. Do any committee members have any comments or questions to staff on this? Member Hamilton, please go ahead.
Through the chair to staff, I have a question, or I guess I'm looking for some clarification. You say you want the 2 silos removed. Are they silos or grain bins?
Through the chair, on the site plan that was submitted, they labeled them as silos, so I believe that they're silos.
Okay, I didn't see that, so that's why, but they are grain bins, right?
Through the chair, I'm not familiar with that infrastructure.
So, sorry, through the chair, I do see that the agent is nodding his head yes, so we'll go with that. Yes, they're silos, used grain bins, sorry.
They're grain bins,
Yes.
not silo. Okay, that's fine. And so a secondary question to that is, why is the request to remove them then? The justification for it.
Through the chair, so since they're removing the agricultural land, we see no reason for them to continue to keep these agricultural buildings and grain bins with the property that is going to be for residential use. The agricultural buildings should stay with the agricultural use.
But is this still not zoned agricultural?
Through the chair, technically yes, but it's creating an undersized agricultural lot.
Which we looked at 2 or 3 times previously for doing some lot line adjustments and have to go ahead and do a minor variance in order to, have it within the consent, I guess, is what you're asking. True or not true?
Through the chair, I'll just add that the creation of the remnant parcel results, although it remains zoned agricultural, any buildings that are in addition to the dwelling would be accessory to a residential use. And so therefore, by leaving farm buildings with the residential use, they would then need to recognize that a farm building isn't permitted and address that. So that's why planning staff don't support the farm buildings being remaining with the residential use. They're no longer accessory to a residence.
I guess I'll wait for the applicant, but I cannot see why the applicant, the Hamilton family, cannot utilize that if they're still farming in the area. So I'll wait for the applicant to ask that question.
Thank you. I believe Member Smith has her hand up. You have a question, Rebecca?
I do, through the chair to staff, and I'm just gonna ask this question. If the benefiting parcel was not zoned for an aggregate pit, and it was technically a farm, which it kind of is at this point, would this not just be a farm consolidation?
So through the chair, if the applicants wish to simply do a farm consolidation, they wouldn't be required to go through a Planning Act application. The reason they're here tonight is because they're looking to have an actual consent application, right? Which is why we're creating a remnant parcel that is no longer a farm. So,
sorry, I should maybe re-clarify. It would be a farm consolidation with a surplus farm dwelling being retained. so it would still go through with the consent process. I'm just kind of considering the policies here. I know they've suggested that it's going to be a lot line adjustment, but if we were to look at it as if aggregate pits are an interim use and technically it's being farmed right now, would this fall under the farm consolidation policies retaining a surplus farm dwelling? Just looking for clarification.
Through the chair, so the previous application did apply under the surplus policies. So Haley did present that report at the previous meeting. We can only discuss tonight what's being presented to us, which was by the agent as a lot line adjustment.
And then if I can just ask one more question through the chair, just regarding the silos, are we more concerned with MDS setbacks to the new property line of that retained lot? Is that maybe more of the reason for them to come down?
Through the chair, no, I don't believe so, but we do think that because it's becoming a residential lot, that the silos were no longer needed for the agricultural use.
I'd only comment, wouldn't MDS only apply if they were livestock buildings? I don't.
Through the chair, yes, that's correct.
Any further questions?
I think that's it for now. Thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions from the committee for staff? It appears there are none at this point. Then I believe the agent for the applicant is present. Do you have things you'd like to add?
Good evening, Chair and members of committee. My name is Ruchika Angrej. I am the agent on this application, and with me.
Good evening. My name is Kevin Mitchell. I'm the Director of Property Planning and Approvals at CRH Canada.
Thank you for, again, this opportunity for hearing this application. It's the same application that was in front of you in November. The intent at that time was lot line adjustment to farm consolidation. And again, there's only one consent application. It's consent to either create a new lot or consent to merge through lot line adjustments, lot additions. These are not legally defined terms, so there's only one consent under Planning Act. With that, so staff recommended refusal for the surplus farm dwelling severance. They did not feel this was a farm consolidation. We did get a legal opinion on minor boundary adjustment. That was the application that we had applied for. There has been no comments from county's legal department on the legal opinion that was provided. The legal opinion specifically mentioned many different case laws that had gone to tribunal, Ontario Land Tribunal, and decisions have been rendered specifically talking about boundary adjustments in agricultural areas and the intent. So on that basis, there's no new creation of new lots. This boundary adjustment is considered minor when you look at from numbers perspective. We're increasing approximately 200 acres of the benefiting lands and increasing it to 239 acres, which is 19% increase. So it's not over 50%. If that's generally, that's what is considered as major. But again, the retained lands will continue to be used there's an existing dwelling. The lands that are to be added, I have to be careful with the terminology. The lands that are consolidated with Dufferin's lands, they will continue to be farmed. There's no change in land use activities. We were upfront that the lands are designated and zoned for extractive. So in future, whenever Dufferin is ready, they are going to make applications which which will go through public process for aggregate extraction, which is a permitted use under PPS. I would also like to note that there has been no changes in provincial policy statement or county of Brant official plan since we came in front of this committee for the lands to the east, immediately on the other side of the benefiting parcel for 655 Watts Pond Road. We came in 2022 twice in front of this committee. And at both times, the applications were recommended for approval by county senior planner. So here we are again trying to do that exact same thing on this side, and we have a different recommendation. In terms of, I think there was a question from the committee member about MDS. MDS does not apply. There is no livestock operations within a kilometer of the subject lands. So there's, and because these lands are within source water protection, wellhead protection area, the livestock operations are extremely limited. There's no intent to have livestock operations on this. Just going through my notes. I believe I've covered most of things. Kevin, I believe I'll leave it for Mr. Mitchell to add some more comments to it.
Thank you, and thank you, Madam Chair and committee members. I just really wanted our planning consultants cover the points that really I had. I would just like to expand on some of the questions that were asked by some of the committee members. So, and we would like to see the building stay on the part that's going to be retained by the family. They are grain bins, they're not very tall, but nothing's going to change as a result of this if this application is approved. The family are going to stay there. They're going to use the buildings exactly the way being used today. They park their tractors and their vehicle in the barns. They have some older tractors. They have some equipment, and they're going to continue to farm the land. So there's no changes. So if you drive by today or you drive by in 5 years, if this was approved, there'd be no change. Everything's going to stay the same that way. No additional lot, no additional house. And just to expand a little bit on some of the comments, the lot line adjustment that was granted on the 500 meters away from here in 2022, if you took that property and flipped it over, it's almost identical to this request. And that was approved twice by planning staff's reports and this committee. If there's any other questions, I'd be happy to answer those. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for the presentation. Committee members, do you have any questions or comments to the applicant and agent? Member Famous.
Yes, through the chair to Mr. Mitchell. You mentioned everything's going to stay the same. They're going to keep doing what they're doing. Nothing changes. Then why do they need this application then?
Well, it's the intention.
Everything's going to stay the same. Nothing's going to change.
Yeah. So the agreement that we have with the family is they can continue to farm it for a minimum of 5 years. Now, over the long term, the area is designated aggregate extraction. We have tested the property, know it contains aggregate, and it is the intention of the company somewhere down the road to file a request for those changes. However, there's a whole bunch of technical work that needs to be done, and that's a whole different process. So when the family expressed interest but wants to live there because they're going to continue to have things, we thought that this was very similar to the landowner 500 meters away, and that we could go through the same process.
Okay, thank you.
Any further comments or questions? I have just a question, and I don't know if you can answer it. Are the people who are selling it, are they selling it because they're close to retirement in farming?
That's our understanding. They are, I will say, over 65, and the farming industry is tough. This is an area that's in with a source water protection area, and the county's consultant has come to us and to others in the area and said they don't want nitrates applied to it. So it's very hard to farm here and get crop yield when inputs are as expensive as they are. So the comments that we got from the county consultant on source water is that nitrate application may be restricted and or prevented. So for a number of reasons, age of themselves, age of their equipment, and the difficulties and challenges with farming on land that's gravel underneath so it dries out and not being able to maybe fertilize it because it would be up to the county. It's my understanding, they've decided it's time to look at something else, but they love to live there, and their house and the buildings, they utilize them, and it would continue to for a period of time.
Then I'd have a concern if they would be able to continue the operations for the 5 years. But that also leads to, I'm glad you mentioned the nitrates, because in page 9 of the report from the Anglish group, it refers to the subject lands fall within WHPA BC, and it speaks about vulnerability score. So with those vulnerability scores that you've given of 10, 8, and 6, does that mean that's a higher risk for aggregate extraction there? Or what do those scores mean?
So the scores that were granted, that were designated through that, came through source water protection process. And that process was, started with the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks. And it was implemented through a program that was run by the Grand River Conservation Authority. Those designations were created by groundwater modeling, and so if you drop the drop of water on the property, how long would it take to get one of the municipal wells, either the Telfer well or the Gilbert well? So the brighter the orange on the photo, the faster it would get to the well. Now, nitrates is a concern because if you drink too many of them, it's not healthy for people, especially elderly people or babies, pregnant women. But as far as aggregate extraction goes, it wasn't designated as a concern through source water protection. Aggregate extraction and processing was not. Agriculture was. So the risk management plans that are in place are only for farming. And so each of the farmers in that area were contacted by the county through a consultant. We've worked with the consultant as landowners individually. And we've come up with a risk management plan for each of our properties. The intention is to limit the amount of nitrates going onto the properties here, but those nitrates are coming from agriculture, not from extraction.
Thank you. And I just remember, I don't want to go back into the history too much, but that was one of the contentious issues for the townspeople who were arguing about implementing the license that was held in that area, because the agricultural chemicals back to the 60s and 70s, the simazine and atrazine, were supposed to be reactivated and could get into the wellhead protection area through the aggregate extraction when they had been sort of gone down below the surface over the years of production for agriculture.
So that process was looked at very carefully by the ministry, and the ministry approved that land use of aggregate extraction and aggregate washing. There was a hearing, and as a result of the hearing, all of the approvals were granted. Now, since those approvals are granted, the washing has been taking place, and it's been demonstrated through a very extensive monitoring program, and all the copies are provided back to the county, so they have access to these at staff level. And there's been no indication, no trace of any type of chemicals being washed off of the aggregate. So there was a concern. The concern was addressed by the ministries, and then it was demonstrated that it would be okay through the tribunals. And then there's a monitoring program in place to prove that that isn't the case.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? No, it appears there is no further comments or questions from the committee.
Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. And are there any final points of discussion, or I'll ask? Then I'll ask, is the committee prepared to make a motion on this application? And please state your motion first prior to requesting a seconder. Member Hamilton, please state your motion.
I'm looking for maybe some clarification first from staff, so through the chair to staff. Do we, if I don't agree with what the county has put forward and would prefer to have this adjusted, do I vote down this consent application form? And then do we then have to approve, or by saying I would like to approve it versus refuse it, does it go that way? I'm trying to understand the process.
My suggestion is to phrase it in your motion. So if you were to agree with one provision of the act and disagree with another as the basis of your motion, then state that in your motion.
I'll have to just think about that for a sec. I move that we accept application B31-23HH as a lot line adjustment, but I think we need to put some conditions to that which have not appeared here. It was just a refusal. So I was wondering how that goes from a process as well. I've got a number of conditions in my head. I know staff has the traditional ones of paying the taxes, making sure the lawyer will move over the land and work with the county solicitor. Do we need an A9 on this situation? We have to grant 1.94 meters to the county for the road widening potential in the future and all these. So I'm just curious on how that I would do it with the conditions that are put forward, but there's no conditions.
Are you requesting staff propose conditions now? Are these the conditions for the original application, or these are emergency conditions? Yeah. Okay. Do you want to pass them out then? Thank you. But if it's merging on title on the other.
Yeah, they asked for the A9 so that they don't care. Okay, so yeah, that's fine.
There's the undersize.
And that's for the undersize. So there would be two zonings, one for the A9 and one for the undersize parcel or anything else that goes with it. So I think pretty much the rest would be standard, but yeah, so two conditions for zoning.
The condition for the silo is there too. For to cuts because right.
They're accessory to residential use, right? So
Right.
That's what comes and those are farm buildings. So if they have something they want to ask for to that's up to the committee.
What about Rebecca? Can she see these? Can we just email? Okay. Okay. Yeah, I know. Member Smith, I would just ask, have you had the opportunity to review the conditions? They were emailed to you. Okay, thank you. Do any committee members have any comments or questions on those conditions? Member Jang, please go ahead.
To the chair, do we need to add Six Nations approval to those conditions?
I don't believe that's a standard condition. I know that their input was they did not approve of this. So I don't know how that would work for requesting it as a condition when we already know they won't approve it.
Thank you.
Maybe staff can comment.
Yes, not a standard.
It's not a standard. Member Hamilton.
On the draft list of conditions here, I am very pleased to see most of them there. The only one I have any objection to is number 9, needing a demolition permits to take down the existing silos. I would like to see that struck from the draft list.
Okay, then if you are providing a motion, you can mention subject to attached conditions and modify any of them. There are standard conditions, but it's been pointed out that condition 5 refers to A9 and condition 6 refers to the undersized farm parcel. So if you're okay with that. Oh, Member Smith has a question. Please go ahead.
Yeah, through the chair, I had the same kind of question about condition 5. I'm not too sure if we technically have to prohibit a dwelling, as there's going to be an existing dwelling, and once we create that lot, if that's the way we go, it's going to be an existing dwelling. So just looking for clarification on that.
Yeah, through the chair, I can comment on that. That was put in by the applicant and their agent as a request, but county staff did not require it as it did not apply under a surplus application. So that condition is at the request of the agent.
Any further questions? Thank you. If there's no further questions, I'll return to Member Hamilton and ask for his motion.
All right, I'll start over again. I move that we accept consent application, the lot line adjustment B31-23-HH with the list of the draft conditions that have been provided, but taking out condition 9 on the demolition of the granaries for it, because it does meet, in my opinion, the official plan and zoning bylaws.
Could I ask that you limit the conversation? Could I hear some of your motion over again?
Okay. I move that we accept application, consent application, lot line adjustment B31-23HH, as with the draft conditions that have been provided, with the exception of taking out number 9 on the demolition of the granaries and leaving in the rest of them, and because it meets, in my opinion, the official plan and the zoning bylaws of the County of Brant.
Thank you, Member Hamilton. Can I request a second? Member Smith, do you have a question?
Can I ask a question of clarification before we go into the motion, just about condition 9?
Okay.
And it probably goes through to staff, but is there I'm just trying to understand if we are going to be removing that condition and it won't meet the zoning bylaw. Is there a height restriction with a lot of that size? Should this go through? Like, are we doing something that we need to recognize in the zoning bylaw if those don't need to be demolished? I just want to make sure that we are doing it properly.
Through the chair, so a silo would not be considered an accessory structure, so we can't consider it as part of this agricultural lot. It doesn't meet the table 4.4.1 of the zoning bylaw as an accessory structure.
But is that because of the use or because of the height? Sorry, I'm getting probably a bit too technical, but I just want to make sure because technically the lot will still be zoned for agricultural use. So I just want to understand if it's like a height thing that needs to be recognized in the bylaw if it goes through.
I would have, here, let me just look.
And it's okay if it needs to be if it needs to be included kind of just in the general rezoning for condition 5, that's fine. I just want to make sure it's covered.
So through the chair, the structure height of an accessory structure in the agricultural zone needs to be 7 meters. I don't know how tall these structures are.
Okay. Likely fine. Okay, thank you.
So your motion is a stance. We have a motion on the floor to approve application B3123HH, subject to the draft emergency conditions, exception number 9. So with that, can I ask for a seconder? Member Penag? And I'll now call the vote, starting with Member Schmidt.
No.
Member Hamilton?
Yes.
Member Penag? Member Vamus?
No.
Member Smith?
Yes.
Member Brown? No. How many yeses and nos do we have? 1, 2, 3 noes and 3 yeses. The motion has failed. We're at a stalemate. I can ask, would you like to rephrase your motion?
No.
Then I'll ask one of the other members, would you like to put forth a motion? Member Vamus or Member Schmidt? Member Vamus, please go ahead and state your motion first prior to asking for a seconder.
In regards to application B31-23-HH, I like to propose a motion that it be refused because the application creates a undersized agricultural parcel. I'm looking for a seconder.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Member Schmidt? And with that, I will now call the vote. Starting with Member Schmidt?
Yes.
Member Hamilton?
No.
Member Penag? Member Vamus?
Yes.
Member Smith?
No.
And Brown? Yes, in support of the second motion. So, at this point, we have to move on to, what rules are they called? I'll ask that we take a 5-minute break. as my vote can count to break a tie. So, and the way the county procedure has been, as long as I've been on this committee, the chair has always voted. But in this instance, I guess it would be best if I take my vote out. So, and there, even with Harry gone, he stepped down, we still have enough members to meet quorum. So what I will do is ask for the motion to be put forth on the floor again. And because my vote is causing the tie, I will not vote on this, whatever motion is made the next time. So I'll now ask the committee to, a member to put forth a motion, please. Thank you. Member Hamilton, please go ahead.
Okay, I will put forward the same motion that I originally put forward. Do you want me to try and verbalize that?
I think for the record, it's best if you state the
Alright.
motion over, along with the conditions that you're in favor of and removal of whichever one it was.
I move that we accept consent application lot line adjustment for B 31-23-HH with the draft conditions that are put forward, except for condition number 9, talking about the silos/greeneries, because it meets the, in my opinion, the official plan of the County of Brant and the zoning bylaw.
Thank you. Is there a second? Member Penag? I'll now call the vote, starting with Member Schmidt.
No.
Member Hamilton?
Yes.
Member Penag? Member Vamus?
No.
Member Smith?
Yes.
The motion to approve application B3123HH has carried and the application has been approved. Thank you. We need to. The next meeting is scheduled for February 15th, 2024, and again, it will be a hybrid meeting starting at 6 p.m. May I please get a motion to adjourn the meeting? Thank you, Member Emmett. Seconder? Member Vamus, please provide your motion.
Okay, I move that the meeting of January the 18th be adjourned.
Thank you. All those in favor, give a show of hands. The motion has carried. The meeting is now adjourned.